can choose whatever you want, but with respect to that anchor, there is zero volatility. Always, when you talk about volatility, when you talk about change of rate, it's always with respect to some other value. There is no definition of rate other than that. So always rate is defined with respect to other value, and you are talking volatility, you're talking about with respect to that other value. Choosing that value, you can do whatever you want, and that you cannot avoid that. The fact that this value can itself be fluctuation with respect to other values. Usually when you want to talk about absolute change of value, you think about with respect to cost of living. That's the only anchor that is kind of,
You can also make like a basket of currency.
Exactly.
Or let's say so much of precious metals or a combination of dollars and pounds and euros and everything.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something related to what we're actually doing. Yeah. Okay, so no volatility, that's good. Okay, but two problems. One problem, just as Bas has mentioned, no gain to be early, right? Because if it's always the same, what's the point to be early? No gain to be early. The second problem is that you cannot, if it's full pay, you cannot distribute tokens. So you can only upon purchase, but you cannot distribute tokens for contributors, for adapters. You cannot, because if you will distribute tokens, you will not have enough fund here to back all those tokens out there, correct? You have more tokens out there than dollars sitting in your account, okay?
It's a fractional reserve.
Yeah.
It will become fractional.
It will become fractional, and we don't want to be fractional. We want to be able to back everything, okay? So these are the problems. So how do we fix at once both of them and keep some of the advantage of this? So the answer is just roughly what you said, but with a bonus. So now the answer is partial pegging. Partial pegging. And now the point is that I have buying and selling rate. So again, the community. So whenever someone, and now the selling rate is not, let's say that we are pegging the Zuz, one Zuz is pegged, or partially pegged to $1. Okay? But now, if someone wants to purchase Zuz, there is higher rate for purchase. Okay? So if he's sending now, let's say 1.5, just for the example, dollar, he will receive one Zuz token. Okay? And similarly, when he's cashing out his Zuz token, he will not receive $1, but just maybe, let's say for example, $0.50. So there is buying and selling rate. And now that solves both problems. Let me show you how. So firstly, to be able to distribute tokens, by definition, because now I can distribute more tokens, now I have more tokens in the world than my fund to back them with respect to that rate. Sorry, with respect to that rate. But I can back all of them with respect to another rate. And that actually defines my rate. My lower rate is just the rate at which I can back all tokens. Okay? Or if you want, the lower rate is the amount of fund that I call funding dollars over the number of Zuz tokens in the world. That's the definition of my lower margin such that I can back everything out there. Okay? Which means that I hold this fund, this is a community fund. Whenever someone makes good contribution, the community wants to share with him the wealth that they own. The way they do that, they just issue new tokens, but it's just the same as giving him from their own tokens, which in proportion to each of the holdings of each of them. Okay?
It's diluting the economy.
Yeah. But it's not, now many people asking this point, but wait, this is not inflating the economy? And the answer is no, it's not. Because he's making a real contribution and the value of the project has increased. So if you just issue the right amount of tokens, you're not diluting the economy. You're not you're diluting the fund, but you're not diluting the value of the project.
Yeah, because you have two things. You have the ecosystem in itself,
right,
which is actually maintaining the platform, developing new services, keeping systems up and running, paying salaries for the staff, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And then on the other periphery, you have the users, the end users of the service.
Exactly. So they will need to purchase those tokens.
Yeah.
So in the long term, it will increase the fund, but you don't see it right away when the
Yeah.
contribution is made. Yes. Okay. So then we also fix the. Need to say to tell you how we fix the upper selling rate. Let me right now avoid it for a second. Maybe we'll get back to it later. But I will tell you. But I still haven't told you how to solve this. What is the gain for early adopters? So the thing is the following. Whenever you issue new tokens, so for example now, this guy has just sent $1.5 to the fund, and he received one Zeus token. However, since eventually the economy will fully, I haven't described it, but those margins will lock in on the peg. So if the project is successful, eventually you get full peg, almost full peg economy.
You want to have a flexible market of supply and demand, also the bidding and the offer rate. You also want that to be dynamic.
Yes.
Like for example,
Yes.
the stock exchange.
Yes. So this is dynamic by the definition I made,
Yeah.
and this is also dynamic. Yes.
Okay.
I didn't tell you what the dynamics
So
is.
in theory, you could also, let's say, the Zeus rate you're buying is 1.05, and
Exactly.
the selling rate
Yes.
is 0.95, so you have a spread of 10
Yes.
points.
Yes.
That will also be possible.
No, but here, this is have to be dynamic because if I want to keep on full reserve scheme. So by definition, I have to be, so that defines my loan margin. So since I want to be in full reserve scheme, that defines the loan margin. And the upper margin can also explain why it should be dynamic, and I will explain that, okay?
Yeah.
So, but what's the trick here? The trick is that this guy has just sent $1.5 and he received one Zeus token. But asymptotically, how much value did he generate to the community? Because eventually $1 will be worth one Zeus. So he has actually generated 1.5 Zeus value to the community. So the system will also issue the rest. Okay?
Can you explain this again to me? Because I'm missing you.
Okay.
Maybe
Let me tell you that. Okay? The margins breed. Okay?
Yes.
Anyway, let me give you one example for a margin. Upper margin, it's not the right one. Let me give you one example. The upper margin can be the mirror of the lower one. We do like that. Okay? Whenever a lot of people purchase a token, it does that. Whenever you distribute tokens to people, it does that. Okay? So it does purchase, distribute, purchase, distribute. Okay?
Well, why not just keep it simple and transparent? And since your whole system, at least from my perception, is doing these two functions. On the one hand, in the real world of creating real services that people want, whereby real people, like a taxi driver in the system, people transport people from A to B, he will be paid with Zeus, which I, as a user, have to buy first.
That's all true.
Conclude the transaction with him. And at the end of the day, the Zeus taxi driver is also going to cash in because he has to do payments in real
Right.
world.
That's exactly what happens here.
Now, if there is a sort of slippage in the whole story, I mean, it's like buying euros with your dollars with your euros, you know that you're always losing a small commission. I mean,
No, I agree. I understand, and that's exactly what we're doing. I'm just saying that
and this commission basically that you pay.
that is what
the
this is.
of infrastructure.
That's true. And this is the commission. That's exactly what you're saying. I'm just saying that if you want to keep a full reserve scheme,
Yeah.
that defines your lower margin. You're not choosing.
I still have a problem understanding why, again, we all know what may happen in the current economic system, where you have market made.
Well, in the current economic, it's because you're not working with full reserve. Yeah, you never work with full reserve. We want only to work with full reserve. There is no bankruptcy. By the way, when someone is cashing out these tokens, the lower margin doesn't change. He's just taking his share, his part of the cake. The lower margin itself doesn't change, which means there is no panic if now half of the people just cashed out. So what? This is security.
As long as you have the counter value of the counter fiat currency, more or less on the bank account.
This is just a security net. This is just a security net for the community. Now, the point is that this extra, so again, now I have a buying rate of 1.5, and I generated 1 Zeus for the purchaser, but I generate another half Zeus. Okay, because asymptotically, at the end of times, the margin will go like that if the project is successful. Why? Because the number of tokens that will be purchased will be much, much bigger than the number of tokens which were distributed for work. This is just definition of successful project, economically wise. The number of funds that are entering from the service is bigger, much bigger than the amount of fund that you have invested in the development. That's the definition of successfully, of economically successful project. So in that case, you can show that the lower margin as well as the upper margin asymptote to locking on the peg, which is good because eventually you don't want to have a deflationary economy. You want to have an economy of tokens that encourage people to use them, not to keep them.
Exactly, but the number of tokens is dependent on people buying the
Right.
Did I miss anything?
No, that's true. But I'm just saying that if the project is successful, there will be enough users to purchase those tokens, and if you distributed those tokens rightfully, like not just just for the value that was created, then by definition, eventually you'll have much more tokens, and many more tokens purchased, and thus the economy will be locked. Yeah, let's keep that discussion maybe afterwards. I just maybe continue a bit. But then, so since this purchased $1.50, he received 1 Zeus tokens, but then in terms of value increased the value of the project with 1.5 Zeus, and then another half Zeus is generated. What to do with that? That it's automatically spread as a dividend to the whole community in proportion to their holding. Okay? So now, this is the mechanism for more gain to early adopters, but not like Bitcoin in terms of more rate to your tokens, it's more tokens into your wallet. Okay? Now, another way to understand this is the following. You see, in an economy, 2 things you can control. You can either control the rate of tokens or the number of tokens. Okay? If you control the number of tokens, then the fluctuation of demand, this breadth is transferred to the breadth of rate of tokens. If you control the rate of tokens, then this by the full pegging mechanism, then the breadth is turned into breadth of volume, the number of tokens. This is an extrapolation of these 2 models. So you see, these are the margins, which by themselves dynamic. Now the open market can be only in between. So as long as the open market is in between, the breadth of demand translates to breadth of rate, to change of rate. As soon as it hits one of the walls, everybody starts purchasing from the system, and the volume of the system grows. As soon as it hits the wall here, people are burning out, sending their Zeus tokens. I didn't say that, but Zeus tokens are burned out of circulation here, and the volume of tokens is decreased. So then the breadth is turned into breadth of volume of tokens. So it's an extrapolation between the shift or the fluctuations of volume of tokens and the fluctuation of rate of tokens. Now, another way to understand that is that just imagine now the old Bitcoin economy. The rate of token is just increasing if the project succeeds. And what this dividends is doing is just decreasing it back. So it increases, so this dividend has no physical, locally it has no physical meaning. We're just diluting everyone. So let's say that now we have 100 Zeus tokens among us, and now we distribute another 100 Zeus tokens with the same proportions of each holding. So what happens? Nothing. Just the rate of tokens has decreased into half of its value, right? And all of us are keeping the same assets. So that's what it does. So the economy, the rate of token is growing, and then the dividend is being distributed and bringing it back. All the time bring it back. And the upper margin, the right one, is such that it matches the would-be rate of token at the open market if there was no upper bottom. Okay? Let's wrap it up. Okay, any questions about this? Okay. So let me just tell you in words. I mean, I won't get it. There is a whole area of consequences from this model, and you can make simulation. It's fully predictable. Given such and such scenario, you can predict completely the revenue of each participant, given a scenario, adoption scenario. It's much less volatile. There is much more security in the network. It encourages stability of the token. For me, the most interesting thing is that it's completely natural. There is no arbitrary numbers injected anywhere. It's completely fully natural. There are no parameters in this one. Okay?
Do you have like a white paper explaining
Yes, yes. We have. It's still a draft. Yeah, we'll release in the next months. In the coming months, we'll release the one. Yeah. If you want, I'll take your email. I'll send you a draft.
They have the collaborative document.
Personally, I've been working on ideas with regards to ecosystems, services, people, and also the creation of services and content.
Okay.
It would be ideally suited this economic model
Great.
for one of my projects.
Great. So we'll definitely add you to the loop. Okay, so that was partial planning. Then, now I will skip that interesting part. I will say one or two sentences just on this. So again, this is coming to solve what I just told you about the Bitcoin. Bitcoin is only rewarding specific set of actions. So what is the most general way to get tokens? Either you purchase them, or you make algorithmic contribution. By that I mean a contribution that you can evaluate a priori in a algorithmic manner, just like mining, for example. You just set once, follow the rules, just let it go. Okay, so algorithmic contribution, or algorithmic contribution and reward, or arbitrary contribution. Okay. So that we just dealt with. I just told you how you release tokens with respect to purchase. Algorithmic contribution you can always put and they make just like Bitcoin. In Azul's case, it's reward mining. If you drive and generate value, you get those tokens. We need to have a algorithm formula for that, but we have that. What about arbitrary contribution? Now, for example, I forgot your name. Sorry, Alexandra. So Alexandra is now was just helping me and giving me advice for taxation scheme. She's a PhD in taxation. So maybe we'll keep the discussion for longer, and eventually it'll be super fruitful for the whole community, because the whole community will get exempted from taxes just because of this advice. So the community can evaluate highly her few hours of work, because it gained a lot of value to that project. So now the decentralized decision-making or reward mechanism is the algorithmic mechanism, which it's a community feedback. I will not go into details, just tell you, just like biofeedback, you know what biofeedback is?
Sorry?
Biofeedback.
Biofeedback.
Biofeedback, you're connected to a machine, it measures your blood pressure and such things, and then someone is telling you, look, there is this thing, dial, that is telling you you're stressed. You're stressed. And then you see you're stressed, and you feel, then you can make changes in your body to be less stressed, and you see, oh, you are less stressed. So you can play with that, and this biofeedback actually is very, very efficient. You can immediately reduce stress, because you see you have reacting dial. So this mechanism is about community feedback. So I'm doing an action. Now the whole community can feedback this action, can say things, can say like, dislike, and comment on comments, can do whatever they want. And now there is an algorithm at the back end that fills all these feedbacks and make a number. Okay? Now this itself, the algorithm itself, is learning. So people can teach the algorithm to behave better, and by machine learning, making it optimized. Okay? That's the idea.
One problem I have is also one of the critical problems of democracy, one man, one vote. That doesn't always mean that it's the quality of decision making.
Perfect. So here there is no, I haven't told you what is the algorithm.
Yeah.
So let me give you, for example, the simplest algorithm I'm giving. So the simplest algorithm will be weighted voting.
Yeah.
So for each contribution that you are doing, now everyone can evaluate that contribution, and the number of tokens issued is the weighted average, where each of us has a weight for his voice. Because that's just as you say, maybe he's more knowledgeable or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's the simplest algorithm. We are trying to design a more complicated one, but that's the simplest algorithm. And then, but then it requires another thing. It requires to develop a decentralized reputation system. Right. So again, let me give you the simplest example for the decentralized reputation system. Let's say that each of us can evaluate the reputation of any other person. And again, we're doing weighting average. And this is, I won't get into details, but this is very, very similar to, if you know, a page rank algorithm. You know page rank algorithm for Google? Familiar? Okay, so this is really a generalization of page rank algorithm. Okay, so with that, let me skip the details of that and just reach almost at the end of my talk, a decentralized collaborative platform. Okay, so we've covered, we have the technology, we have the protocols, and we have the platform. So I won't get into much detail. I will just tell you that basically, so the collaborative platform is something like that. Imagine a social network, just like Facebook, which is by itself decentralized, and then add to it a collaboration tool. So, like community or project management, so that people can also do a task together. Add to it something like GitHub. Add to it something like a wiki or something like that, or Google Docs, so that people can create content collaboratively. Add to it crypto and smart contracts, so that people can smart contracts, and then the final ingredient is just what you said. Sorry, what's your name? Arthur. And the final ingredient is just what you mentioned before, which is the graph-based. Just write graph. The graph-based machine, in which you can interactively play with or interact with. So it looks like that. For example, this is example that I will not elaborate on it further. So it looks like that. I'm writing, I am building a decentralized insurance.